Two of Korea's very best players are facing off against each other in a best-of-3 series of StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Terran versus Protoss between the #1 Terran from Korea. He goes by the name of Maru, and the #1 Protoss from Korea. He, of course, goes by the username of Hero. Now, it's been a little bit since I've last seen Maru play. I think the last time I saw him play was actually in person over at Home Story Cup. It's been maybe a month or so. It's way too long for my liking. Oh, very excited for this one. This particular series was played during the Masters Coliseum group stage. This is a tournament that's actually currently ongoing, which is pretty neat. One of the big online tournaments that we're starting 2025 off with, and actually already the end of 2024 as well. This particular series, as of me casting it, was played, I think, about a week or so ago. It's taken me a little bit to hunt down the replays, but massive shout out to the SC Boy guys, and Toby in particular, for sending me over the packs, because I have a whole lot of really good games to go ahead and cast over the next week or two. So it's gonna be a banger. I figured we'll start with this one. It's been maybe half a week or so since I've last casted a Terran versus Protoss, and what better way than to get back to TVP? I mean, not that I really left, but what better way than to start off with a Terran versus Protoss than this particular matchup. Two of the very best. Now, as you probably know, Maru doesn't play in a whole lot of events. Maru is one of the very few StarCraft 2 millionaires. One of the very few players who earned enough money playing StarCraft 2 is just like as far as prize earnings go. To the point where he passed $1 million. And while he never really was a big fan of playing the smaller online cups, these days he really doesn't show unless there's at least, I want to say, 5 grand or so on the line. It's very similar in that sense to, for example, Serral. Serral will practically play in nothing unless there's a good chunk of change on the line. And usually the guys are still playing. They're still practicing. They're just hiding their strategies until it really counts. And yeah, there's a bit of a mind shift change, right? So some of the players out there, like for example, Clem or MaxPax, or for a Korean player, for example, Björn, they play in basically everything. So they take a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. It's a strategy that works. Problem is, if you want to win a couple $100, you still, in 2025 at the very least, you still have to face the absolute top dogs in StarCraft 2. If you want to actually win an online cup, you have to be able to take down one of the world's finest. Now, the alternative approach is to, well, be like, for example, Maru, like, for example, Serral. Hide all of your strategies until it absolutely counts the most, and then win the majority of the events that you enter. Twilight Council opener here for Hero, nothing all too weird. We've got ourselves a command center, but a pretty safe one. Hero did hide a probe out on the map. Probe decided to go back in. He really wanted to see if he could get a cancel on that SCV, or at the very least delay it. But Maru already making the choice to build that command center inside of the main base. I'm a big fan of that move. I think it's something you should do in basically every single one of your Terran versus Protoss if you are a ladder hero. It's very common on the ladder to just build the command center on location. It's very common at the pro level to do it too. But I've seen so many viewer-submitted replays over the years where somebody loses the SCV that's building the command center. And it's not even the loss of economy, it's also the supply block. Let's look at Maru right now. He's at 39 out of 39. This command center needs to finish right now for him to continue playing the macro game here. There's a lot of little things that can go horribly wrong if you don't get that command center done in time. And I think just building it inside of the main base, growing a little orbital command hat on top of it, and then, well, continuing onwards with the macro is perfectly viable. It's going to be a Widowmine drop, which I think Hero must have spotted there. Yeah, I think he saw that on the tailwind. Well, now he's certainly going to get some vision of it. And that's nice. He doesn't really know exactly what's inside of it, but judging by the timing, it can really only be stupid stuff, right? That's what Protoss players refer to. If you can get a couple hits with this little group of the Stalkers, that would be huge. This is really good. Lovely interception. And that is why you really want to try and keep that Adept out on the map to continue spotting this. Now suddenly this becomes very committed from Maru. If he loses the Medevacs, or a Medevac rather with 3 Widowmines inside of it, and deals no damage at all, like that would be pretty much game ending. At that point, a Blink follow-up is extremely hard to hold. Right now, at least the Medevac is going to occupy a couple of those Stalkers. It is a triple gate opener here for Hero. He's going to continuously scout the front. NG Bay coming up right now. There's a Raven on the back of this too. Widowmine drop is gonna attempt. Okay. Pull the probes. Somehow the medevac lives. We do have one of the Widow Mines as well, and a natural roll. Whew! Got a little too greedy there. Okay, this is a mess. I don't know what the probes are doing. Hero, get them back to mining, dude. Oh, you right-clicked them onto the observer. All right. Pro gamers, very quick when it comes to the clicking, but apparently that was a slight inaccurate click. They started chasing down the observer instead. Anyways, no significant losses there. There is a bit of a peak, of course, for Maru because, well, the probes weren't mining for a little bit as far as the income goes, but that should stabilize momentarily. And Hero can certainly follow this up with aggression if he wants to. He could also just expand behind it. Decides to go Robo Bait. Aggressive blink forward in the meantime on the other side of the map. Gets one of the siege tanks already. This is just triple gate, so no 4-gate shenanigans at all. But this can still deal a tremendous amount of damage. There is some aggression in the meantime too from that Raven getting 4 kills. It is going to force a warp in on the other side of the map. Engineering Bay is very exposed, so Maru is certainly not going to be able to finish up that +1 upgrade over here. Loses the Engi Bay. Oh, loses the Raven though is Maru. Yeah, that's really, really strong here for Hero. The only thing I don't really like for Hero is that he still does not have a 3rd base. Instead, he's sort of forcing himself into like a 2-base all-in, which can work. It's just very committed. I mean, if he can get a council on the Stimpec research, that would be huge. It is a bit of a close call, though. Quick pull on those SCVs. Siege Tank also helping out a bunch. And I believe now Maru does have enough to really secure this, although we'll probably see Hero going around. I say that. The reinforcing Stalkers are showing up. This is 15 Stalkers. Colossus starts up, too. Hero really needs to build another pylon. He does. Aggressive blink forward again. I guess if you lose a bunch of troops, ooh, that also can work as far as being supply block goes. Excellent control here, though, from the Protoss player. And now a lot of SCVs are in trouble. We can see another aggressive blink forward. He decides to back off for now. There's no medevac available here, so no way for those Marines to heal up. One is spawning, but obviously it does not have infinite energy. Stimpec is finished, but Combat Shields is not going to be so lucky, it seems. Although I say that, no, it's going to burn down. Soon there's going to be a Colossus. Extended Thermal Lance is already a quarter of the way done. Third Nexus does begin. Maybe Hero's original intent was to win the game by now already, but he's forced to back off. Goes into the charge research too. And so far, I mean, Maru is playing a very defensive game. And nobody really does it better than he, but I'm not loving this for him. He doesn't really have anything good going here. Yeah, there is no 3rd command center. There's a whole lot of, I guess, unit-producing structures, but no upgrades. Combat Shields is very late. Engineering Bay got killed and hasn't been replanted. So, ultimately, Maru is up with his back against the wall. Honestly, at this point, he's practically all in. He needs to get something done soon. Problem is, by the time he ever goes across the map, there will be Colossi. I mean, there's already 2 out. Extended Thermal Lens is about to finish. The 3rd Colossus is coming up. You're not going to be able to kill 3 Colossi with Marines. I mean, you can try. But those Marines are not going to have a good time. Stalkers are going to continue being a nuisance inside of the main base too. The fact that Maru lost the medevac drop and then also lost that Raven on the other side of the map is what is really enabling Hero all of this. The fact that Hero can just focus all of his attention over here, it's the worst when, you know, you're a human and you can only control your eyeballs at the same time, right? You can never really control them individually, so you have to keep both of your eyeballs constantly planted on the minimap to see if the medevac with the Widow Mines in it is moving, whether or not there's a Raven being a nuisance in the natural, but when none of that is happening, I mean, the SCVs are pulled too. There's no way, dude. He's forced to siege up in the middle of the map. This is still a long while away. Honestly, you don't even really need to fight this. Hero doesn't really need to be here. SCVs are going to try and repair this back up to full. Charge at this point is done too. Additional gateways are finishing. I mean, this is about as good an engagement as you're ever going to get, but those Marines are just going to roast. I would not want to be a Marine in Maru's army. GG. Brilliant game by Hero. Yeah, that was one of those games where nothing really went wrong for Hero. Hero's a very momentum-based player. When one move goes well, generally he's gonna pile on top of it and he's just gonna continuously deal more damage, and that was a perfect example of it, right? He started cruising as soon as the medevac was spotted. Honestly, when the Adept caught the tail end of that medevac move out, right? The Adept on the other side of the map, when he saw the medevac coming in, he double-checked it, he sent the Stalkers out, and honestly, it felt to me like he won the game since that point. Now, obviously, he had to keep playing for like another 8 minutes in order to actually bring it home, but that's what really powered up Hero's gameplay, and honestly, Maru didn't really react to anything particularly well. I mean, yeah, he did a decent enough job if he's going up against a weaker Protoss, right? If you're going up against a Protoss player who doesn't have really good micro, I guess you can sort of bully your way back into the game. But Maru didn't really make any adjustments. He put that very ambitious engineering bay out front over in the natural expansion. I didn't really like that positioning very much, and it was proven very quickly as to why that is. He kept the Stimpak alive, but there were many scenarios where that tech lab that ultimately got sniped when Combat Shields was researching, there were many scenarios where that one would have died before that point too. So, yeah, it just wasn't really a game for Maru. Not the Maru we are really used to seeing. Little mistakes, well, they have very large consequences in a game of StarCraft 2. We're gonna go into a factory again, nice and quickly. This is a double gas opener once more. Command center is going to be followed up here eventually. This is a Nexus. Good save, Loko. Did you see that? Nobody noticed. My commentary was almost a miss. I looked at the Nexus and I called it a command center, but then I immediately rattled off another sentence. Woo! Shouldn't have told you. This is going to be a sentry first. Okay. So this is the build that people hypothesized when the new patch first went live. Yeah. Sentry first into a hallucination right from the get-go. So because of that new energy recharge ability, yeah, you can actually win this fight. Because of the energy recharge ability, you can get an hallucinated Phoenix out really quickly. And you can see what's up. Now this is great, because you can continuously scout for basically the entire early game. Oh, okay. So we're going Sentry into Stalker into Stargate. I'm loving this here. It's technically very risky, because imagine if there's any sort of hyper-aggression coming up right now. Yeah, you have a Sentry and a Stalker. It doesn't really do much. Generally, Twilight Council is a little bit safer, but of course, Hero already has a point on the scoreboard. He's got a bit of wiggle room, so he's going to try and do a good old Stargate opener. Stargate openers really have lost popularity over the last year or so with the new patch. Since Cyclones are not as easy to make anymore, you now need a tech lab on the factory in order to make them. In the previous patch, I mean, the entire unit has basically been reworked again, but in the previous patch, you didn't need a tech lab. We are gonna go tech lab right now, but he can't just pump out a Cyclone super easily. It meant that if you go for a Cyclone, you can shut down any early game Adepts really easily, and then any sort of Phoenix follow-up just doesn't really work particularly well. We haven't seen that much more Stargate openers ever since the new patch, but I think it's something we'll probably see more of over the next couple months. It's something that's going to require some testing, some practice. And even though this is a little bit of a risky opener, technically speaking, here from Hero, he now has the ball rolling. There's very little that Maru can do at this point to really stop it. Yeah, he's going to go for a Raven. I don't really like Ravens here. There is a Widowmine drop. Basically, Maru is autopiloting into a build. He doesn't know what he's playing against, right? But he's autopiloting into a build that is really nice against a Blink Stalker opener. But this is not a Blink Stalker opener. This is a Phoenix build. Meaning that the Widowmine drop is going to get shut down. Meaning that the medevac is not going to be able to escape. Meaning that the Raven is also, at least, not supposed to deal any damage on the other side of the map. So already, momentum is heavily in favor here of the Protoss. Maru autopiloting into a build that usually works, but that is not going to do much in this particular game. He decides to let it finish. He's going to try and sneak it towards the other side of the map, I guess. Yeah, it's currently hiding in the far top left-hand corner, so... yeah, this is your position, man. This is where you belong. Now, the one saving grace here is that usually this transitions for the Protoss player into Colossi, so maybe the Raven can be useful there. But... I hate to regret this for Maru, but it is not going to be a Colossus follow-up. Instead, we're going Twilight Council together with a Forge. So rather than going into a really quick Colossus follow-up, we're gonna go into the good old charge slots with +1. Yeah. Third Nexus already coming up. And this is on rails right now for Hero. Now, it's still a delicate game. Any Phoenix build, honestly, well, even if you want to take it one step further, I think any Protoss build, any StarCraft build, really, is on a very delicate threat, but Phoenixes in particular, very difficult to control properly. These are units that are absolutely critical to keep around for a long time, because they tend to gain value the longer the game goes on. You want to be able to harass, but you also don't want to lose them. Kind of like Oracles, I suppose. But they're tanky, though. They're quite a bit tankier than Oracles. And at this point, look at this. Oh my god. Dude, are we just seeing Maru getting butchered? I mean, it's not a terrible game for him yet, at least if you look at the supply count. But there's just nothing going for him. So he's got Combat Shield, Stimpack, and +1. Fair enough. That will be a big power spike. But by the time that those units are out, we're gonna have, or those upgrades are done, we're gonna have Zealots with +1. And that's a very foolproof micro method, right? Like, you don't have to control your Colossi. You just attack move with the Zealots. As long as he does a decent job warping in and he, you know, gets the units out, it should be fine. He's sniping the Widow Mines right now, specifically because that's a main target for the Zealots. Like, the Zealots can actually clump up together, and you don't really have that much control over them, so sometimes they kind of just die to Widow Mines. And they can get guided for a really long time, too. This is gonna be the sketchy part of the game, though, for Hero. Technically, he's got all the tools to deal with this, but this is still a large army. Oh, he's looking for the Raven! Oh, Maru not protecting the Raven loses that one, too. I mean, Hero is cruising. For all intents and purposes, this is now a 2-base all-in here for Maru. He needs to deal some sort of damage. If he doesn't deal damage here, he is very screwed. Oh, he's faking a Colossus. He's hoping that Maru is going to back off. Look at Maru. He doesn't know. He doesn't have the Raven anymore, so he can't tell that this is fake. Medevac overextended here. Also going to get sniped. Yep. Dang. All right. Gonna sack it. Yeah. Now the Robo Bay comes up. So Hero is gonna go for some real Colossi as well. Now it's just a taunt more so than anything. He's trying to get the Widow Mines to set off. Yeah. Not gonna happen. Second Robo facility coming up. Supply block. A little unfortunate, but only for a couple seconds. Third command center eventually is building. This is not game over yet, though, of course, for Maru, right? Yeah, he's behind in every aspect of the game, but he still has Terran units. Terran units in this matchup, in particular, are really strong. Yeah, they're really powerful. So, it's gonna be difficult for Hero to really drive it home. Yeah, his economy is not that great, but he does have mules. He's got a third command center coming up. It's still Marine Marauder Medevac. Not really a unit composition that has any blatantly obvious weakness. But this is now certainly Hero's game to lose. It is possible, though. We have seen Hero... Well, if I want to be critical of Hero specifically, can you really have a Hero cast not mentioning his addiction to the all-army hotkey? He uses the all-army hotkey a little too liberally most of the time, although in this particular match so far, not happening. This particular series so far, I've not caught him doing any of that. He's sprinkling pylons around the map so he can see medevac drops coming in. Maru is going to try and secure this expansion. He's got a large army still. Don't get it twisted. Even though Hero has been ahead economically for a long time, this Terran army is still monstrous. He's trying to bait some of these units into the main base, and maybe that's going to allow him to push over here at the front. Colossi, though, have already been bought and paid for, but they're not here yet. Yeah, he decides to just be cautious. Lean into the fourth Nexus instead. Hero's been a full base up on Terran now for quite a while. He's going to be able to hit a maxed out state significantly earlier. He's thinking about doing a Zealot run by. Obviously, Maru is also a ridiculously strong defensive player. Whoa, big EMP. He got all the Phoenixes. Phoenix is now without energy. Yeah, I think you have to go home. Lovely work right there by Maru. He needed to pull a rabbit out of a hat, but maybe that was it. These Phoenixes are going to take a couple minutes before they're back up to full energy again. Disruptor's even coming up right now for Hero. Okay. So he's got 4 Colossi. Yeah, I guess you have to do something at that point. I wouldn't mind Immortal production, but Disruptors can also work. He's dancing. He wants to pick up units as they pop out. Doesn't quite have the energy, though, for much. 4 Colossi? I mean, there's no Vikings. Big EMP again, though. Yeah, big EMP. Those EMPs are incredibly important right now for Maru, and he's landed 2 that I saw. One on all the Phoenixes, one on, well, the rest of the army. Disruptors, though, don't care about energy. They're a cooldown-based unit, so that's the main advantage here. Oh, okay. Not bad. There was no distraction there with a Zealot run by or anything along those lines. Colossi going in right now. Phoenixes trying to swoop in from the side. They're just killing whatever they can hit. Obviously, the Vikings can also get shut down pretty easily, and that's exactly what he targets, and that means that the Colossi are going to have free reign. Maru just got destroyed. GG. You know what? Let's do another Terran versus Protoss, shall we? Same tournament, same group stage. This time around, I mean, once more, we have Maru. His opponent, however, is another Protoss player. This time around, we have none other than Lancer. It's been a little bit since I've actually featured Lancer last time around. Lancer was previously known under the nickname of Cyan, so if you follow the Chinese StarCraft scene very closely, you probably are well familiar with the username Cyan, because he's actually been very successful. He's got a little over $135,000 in tournament earnings, so he's been playing this game for as long as I remember. And actually, looking at his Wikipedia page right now, apparently he was born on the 28th of October, 1992, which means that when I was born, he was 1 day old. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Anyways, Lancer has been playing this game for a very long time. I remember watching his games back in the Wings of Liberty era. And he's still around. He's still kicking. That also means he's equally old as me. Yeah. Good thing he plays Pro... No, Loko. Although, well, generally Protoss players do have a little bit less APM. Anyways. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. This has always been a debate, though. When do StarCraft 2 players get too old to play the game? People told me back in the day, with StarCraft Brood War, that like 25, 26, maybe 27, you're practically ancient. But a lot of that came down to the fact that the Koreans obviously competed in tournaments, and they had to go do their military service, and then when they came back, well, they hadn't played the game for like a year and a half, 2 years. They had to do something else with their lives. So... I don't know. We honestly don't really know. Obviously, there is a physical decline and maybe a mental decline too. But it's certainly not mid-20s, right? At least I would imagine not. Then again, all the top players do seem to be about their mid-20s or so. Many of them I've been casting for a decade, but lovely move right here, by the way, from Lancer. Hiding the probe on the high ground, sees the timing of the Reaper, and now he's gonna run in. I was wondering what he was trying to do on that high ground. He wants to slow down the SCV, but he actually showed up too early. Alright, well, I guess it's still fine. Reaper is going to be forced to turn back home. But the SCV is going to finish the job, yeah. Look at this dude over here. He's way too cool for this sort of thing. He was previously tasked with building the command zone on a low ground. Now that he's a convicted murderer, he decides to go for the starport instead. Maybe that's more his jam. At least it's some form of aggression rather than this like macro-focused structure that his buddy over here is already building. Makes sense. It's gonna be a Stargate opener as well for Lancer, even though he did not open up with a sentry first. This is a more conventional beginning here for Lancer. Oh, God. I keep forgetting about you, man. Shark, bro! He's hanging out on the Abyssal Reef. Shark, bro. Sometimes he accidentally covers. I've never had this much Shark, bro, though. My God. Shark, bro is huge. Look at that thing. All right. Anyways, this is a large map is what I was trying to say. Yeah. And because of that, I guess the Stargate opener is a little bit more valuable because any attack from Terran is going to take a while longer to get across the map. Now, Lancer is really good, but I wouldn't personally rate him quite at the same level as Hero. Mostly because Hero is, well, either the best or the second best Protoss player on the planet. And being the best is tough. Plus, obviously, Lancer is also 32 years old, right? So, as people have told me, I am ancient. So that must mean he is ancient too. That's how it goes. Yeah. If he gets a couple more years, he will literally turn into an oracle himself, dude. We can ask him any questions. Anyhow, not really loving this so much. Loses the scouting probe, loses the observer, the adept as well. I mean, certainly respectable, though. Maru once more going in with the Widowmine drop. So it looks like Maru is just autopiloting into basically the same build every time. He also followed up initially here with a Cloaked Banshee, but he decides to cancel all of that and go for something else. He probably considered a Raven, but I mean, that didn't work at all against Hero. I'm not sure. I kind of feel like Maru is stuck playing the same strat. He's very much so going to turn into a punching bag again, which is fine. Terran's very good. It's alright, but you are for... Wait, we're gonna go combat shields first? Alright. It is okay. It doesn't really matter that much. It's just unnecessary, you know? You don't really need to be playing this defensively every single time. Couple of the Phoenixes going around the right side of the main base. Snatch 3 SCVs, 4 SCVs, 5 SCVs, and we're going back home. This is how you can tell, by the way, that the Phoenixes are a little bit more tanky. Phoenix is one of the very few units in the early game that can actually tank a Widowmine hit. So they can soak up some damage. Not bad at all. A more conventional follow-up, so a bit different than what we saw from Hero in the previous game. This is a more conventional follow-up where he's going into a Robo Bay. Rather than going charge slots, he's going to go into Colossi. It's a similar idea. You essentially want to have a powerful group of units by the time that Terran can go for their timing attack. And Protoss transitions take a long time, but this should line up perfectly. He should have Colossi done by the time that Terran really can move across the map. And considering this is combat shields first, I mean, Maru can go across the map if he wants to, but even a Colossus without ranged upgrades is going to have a grand old time. You want to see that this is indeed the transition. Maru is going to make a move. He's even bringing a bunch of SCVs. The real problem here is the siege tanks, right, for Lancer. So there's still Phoenixes out. However, the problem here is that the Phoenixes can't just fly in and lift up the siege tanks. Furthermore, there's already a lot of Vikings out too, and those Vikings are not to be underestimated. Because if they can clear out the Phoenixes, then the Colossi are going to be next. If this would have, however, been a follow-up with charge slots, like what we saw from Hero in the previous game, I don't think this would work particularly well. Now, this is a cool setup here for Maru. Look at that. He's actually doing a very slow push. Yeah. We are effectively setting up a little base over here on the other side of the map, right outside of the natural of Lancer. This is not an army with Zealot run-bys, right? You can't really send your army across. Yeah, the Phoenixes can pick up any intercepting units, or they can intercept any of those units, but we can go into a fourth Nexus, but ultimately this army here, from the Terran player, is going to have to be addressed. The slowest of attacks. Now this is good. Maru loses one of the siege tanks, decides to very ambitiously send it across. He's going to need to lift it up again. In the meantime, the Vikings land. Gateway already goes down, but this push here from Maru is brutal. We can send a couple of those units around, yeah. Vikings actually deal a lot of damage to mechanical units in particular, like, for example, probes. Charge slot is... Yeah, charge is going to finish up eventually. The same can be said for Stimpack. But I'm already liking this position here for Maru quite a lot. He kills the natural. There is a fourth Nexus starting up. Lancer setting up what seems to be a surround. But the problem is, if you attack move with these Zealots, they're going to charge at the bunkers. You really want him to be charging at the siege tanks. Does he have the numbers for that sort of thing, though? This is a bit disjointed. The rest of the Protoss army not quite coming in. He does lift up one of the siege tanks, but not enough over here. Still, though, the Vikings are up in the air. They are killing the Colossi. They've killed all of the leftover Phoenixes. Lands them once more on the ground. Maru getting so much value out of the Vikings. Still one of my favorite unit designs in the entire game. We rarely see them being used like this. Very cool. Yeah. And they actually pack a punch. Well, I think with reinforcing units, Lancer is going to be able to drive this Terran army home. But that was very costly. Maru doesn't, however, have a third command center. And even though Lancer did lose one of the Nexi, yeah, he's already rebuilding it now. He also immediately started up another Nexus over here. He is a little low, though, when it comes to the work account right now. So even though he will have 4 mineral lines to be mining from, he doesn't actually have any... What's up, Shark Bro? I saw you. I saw you, Shark. I can... Alright, anyways. He's got a lot of mineral lines, but no probes. I don't even know if he wants to make this Nexus. I think he's under the assumption right now that Maru did already start up a 3rd command center of his own. But Maru is effectively doing just a continued 2-base all-in. He finally does start up another CC. Right underneath vision of Lancer, so at least he's got some ideas about what's going on. This is a little too committed for my liking, to be honest, here for Maru. Because if he doesn't actually do critical amounts of damage with this next attack, he can very quickly fall behind. Like, give Lancer a minute here and his probe count is going to go through the roof. Not really something Maru can contest with. Now, despite having all the information, though, Lancer's not really making any adjustments. He's playing as if the 3rd CC was already started up a little while ago. Okay. He decides to give up on this newly acquired base. I don't mind it. Probes are mining the natural expansion once more. Yeah, it's these siege tank positions that have been absolutely killer. Right now, there's also Zealots. Yeah, exactly. Run-bys are certainly an option. This is still actually winnable for Lancer, albeit very difficult for him. Gets the... I mean, this is not bad. I really like that he gave up on that expansion. I think killing that base here is basically... It's gonna happen pretty much regardless of what you do. So just sending the probes immediately back. I think he lost a few too many workers, though. Yeah, 16 probes, actually quite a lot. Maru still has a ton of production. Do we have a couple SCVs again to build some bunkers? I guess we're trying to achieve similar things here using the Liberators. Just creating a very large don't attack me circle, right? Which is effectively what those bunkers did previously. He's going around the site once again. And this section of the map has been beautifully played here. We do have a couple Zealots trying to go around. I believe one of the siege tanks fell, but not quite enough. More Zealots, though, in the middle of the map, picking up reinforcements. There goes a little fidget spinner gun. That's beautiful. The real question is, though, does Lancer have enough to kill this Terran army? The Colossi are going in. They are dealing quite a lot of damage. That Colossus is also going to fall, and I just don't think there's quite enough. Maybe if those Zealots hit at the exact same time, yeah, they're coming home for it right now. Lancer does deflect it once more. At this point, though, it's starting to feel like he's delaying the inevitable. Where are we going? Why are we going over there? What? Maru, what are we doing? This is actually... It's quite a clumsy series so far from Maru. Like, normally he's very calculated. Why are we sending the 3rd base over to the 4th base location? He probably just fat-fingered the F4 hotkey rather than the F3 hotkeys. A lot of players have camera location control groups set up. So F4 is usually the 4th base, F3 is usually the 3rd base, and I guess he just clicked the wrong button. Obviously, a lot of those moves are made in like a 1/10 of a second. Just a little misclick, but it does look a little bit clumsy. Ghost Academy coming up now that the 3rd base is ready to go. Lancer still has his 3rd base, but now he doesn't have any real advantages anymore. At least he kept the Nexus alive? Maybe. Maybe this is doable. It's just a very complicated puzzle. Like, right now he's behind in upgrades. He's not far behind, but it's not looking great in that department. He's behind in economy. He doesn't have the greatest army. When you're playing a gateway-heavy army, you really do want to have more. You can kind of get away with it if you're playing mostly like a robo facility-based army, right? But he's only got 1 Colossus and 1 Immortal remaining at this point. At least they're pretending to be 1 unit. It's a strange Protoss Archon over here. The Immortal apparently wants to be between the legs of the Colossi at all times. Yeah. We don't judge that. No. We look at it, we observe, but we don't judge. They can do whatever they like. Maru starts up the 4th command center. Now, that's curious to me, because he was effectively playing a 2-base all-in, and now he's saying, yo, See you in 15 minutes, buddy. Okay, no, he's gonna try one more time. But I wouldn't be surprised if Maru is gonna chill. He's known to chill. Like, he likes chilling. He likes playing SimCity when he's playing StarCraft 2. Big EMP, though. Wonderful move. He's coming around this side of the map again. Lancer's gonna have nightmares about this position on Abyssal Reef. Those EMPs are gonna seal the deal, right? No way. I mean, the Colossi still live. Shield batteries are still scary. But the siege tanks are once more gonna set up shop right over here. Vikings are coming up. He's got vision of the high ground using scans. He could also fly one of the medevacs slightly further forward so he can actually see up there. Because this is a little cliff over here. More ghosts are coming out, though. Yeah. This is one of those games for Lancer where you haven't technically lost yet, and you do still have 3 bases, and you still have all the tech, but also, you're never gonna win. But also, you can't really leave the game, because there's a chance your opponent makes a mistake. But then, your opponent is Maru, so... you may be better off ripping off the Band-Aid at some point. I mean, once again, he gets a good engagement, but he loses a lot of economy in the process. Still not quite enough stuff to clean it up. GG gets cold. It's Maru who wins game number 1. Alrighty, next up, we find ourselves on Amy Gadala. Let's see. What are you doing? Probius, what are you up to? I decided to fast forward through the first couple minutes of the game. Apparently Probius has got some beef with an unbuildable plate. Fair enough. Probe is going to go around the side, though, and he will find the natural expansion. Nothing all too weird here. The Reaper was actually not on the other side of the map yet, so not much that Probius is going to be able to achieve. A little bit of damage to the plate. 1 hit of damage as well on the SCV. But that's all he's ever going to get. It'll be a Stargate opener once more. Okay. Yeah, I feel like maybe I've been casting too many European games. Especially players like, for example, MaxSpecs rarely go Stargate. And I consider, well, MaxSpecs to be the authority when it comes to playing Protoss. He's just that good. And since he never really plays a lot of Stargate builds, like very rarely, he goes Twilight Council almost every time, I haven't seen it too much. But it's nice to see Lancer now doing it, even when he's behind in a series. We earlier saw Hero do it, of course, when he was 1-0 ahead against Maru. He had a little bit of wiggle room, but apparently Lancer really truly believes that this is what we need to be doing right now. Okay, I don't mind it. So again, the reason why this is a bit more viable now is because you cannot just make Cyclones. You need to commit more into the Cyclone, and a lot of Terran players don't. Now, so far, we've seen Maru go for basically the exact same build every time, but now he's mixing it up a bit. So rather than going straight into a Widowmine drop and then into a Raven or, for example, a Banshee, like he attempted to go for in the previous game, he's gonna go, well, for a cheeky little Widowmine drop initially, but it's only 2. Not as committed as the last few games that we saw. He's gonna go into a Siege Tank 2, and he's gonna head across the map now. Liberator on the back it is. Phoenixes can clean all of this up relatively easily. Phoenixes are still at home. Does he see it? He does see it. Lift up, lift up. Target the medevac, fair enough. Kill the medevac. Yeah, and this falls flat on its face. This did absolutely nothing. Perfect cleanup there from Lancer. This is one of those scenarios where you wonder, well, maybe you should have brought 3, maybe even 4 Widowmines. Because maybe you would be able to do something, even against a Phoenix build. But that was a flawless cleanup right there by Lancer. I don't think he made a single mistake. Twilight Council and Forge right now on the back it is. For the Protoss. So it looks like he is going to go for the same build as we saw Hero do. Rather than going into a Colossus follow-up, which we'll probably get to eventually. This is going to be a priority on what should be charge. Together with +1 melee. +1 ground attacks. Yep. Yep. Vikings already begin here for Maru, who's anticipating that this is going to be a Colossus follow-up once more. Now, if Maru does the exact same build as he just did on Abyssal Reef, right? If he goes for a similar push again, with Marines and the 3 siege tanks and all the rest of it, I believe that the Zealot push is just gonna eat him up. He's just gonna get eaten up. Maybe if the bunkers are in the right position, life's gonna be okay. But Charge is such a nice upgrade when it comes to cleaning up all those sorts of attacks. And Maru doesn't really know. You don't actually want to be over-making Vikings. Yes, they're good as they are landed on the ground too, but they're not particularly cheap. Oh, we're actually not going to go into the Colossus follow-up here either. Instead, he decides to go into the Templar Archives. So we'll be going Archons and Storm instead. Couple of probes on lunch break. Lads, it's only 6 o'clock in-game time anyway. Can we... There you go. Lunch is not allowed in the land of the Protoss. Here come the Vikings. Just trying to get some free shots. Not really getting much. Keeping this base safe. Third command center is much quicker this time around though for Maru. So at least he will have some decent economy. He's going double upgrades as well. He's going Stimpec. No combat shields first. No similar push as what we saw in the previous game. It's gonna give Lancer all the time he needs though to go into the good old Stormy Boy upgrade. The weather forecast is stormy. It's been storming over here quite a bit as well, actually, in real life. Oh. Anyways, no psionic storms at the very least, as far as I can tell. I'm pretty sure they were natural phenomena. But guess we'll never know. Gets 4 of the probes, runs away, loses 1 of the phoenixes. Proxy Gateway. Lancer's, I don't know, dude. I don't know, bro. I want to believe, but he's hoping he can reach the storm of all storms. He's got a couple of those Templar. 3 of them in total. Stimpec is just about to finish up. So Maru should, on paper, never take a big storm to the face. But also, he's not really anticipating that there's a giant Protoss army right outside of his front door. And obviously, Maru is gonna, now move on over towards that 3rd CC. When does Lancer strike? He sees a bit of movement here. Probe now also spots the exact army positioning. This is when he goes. Now, the Vikings see this coming in. The Vikings have actually spotted and given this away. Another proxy gateway, by the way, to the left of this. He storms his own zealots. Alright, well, that's the last thing you want to do, but it's still a good enough fight, it seems. Widow mines over there do detonate on the phoenixes. Yeah, storming your own units is... it's a good thing in co-op. In co-op, Sonic Storm heals shields. Not so much in multiplayer, though. It does deal friendly fire, of course. 80 damage, it's quite a lot. You stand there for the whole duration. Still, though, this push is achieving what Lancer set out to do, at least initially, and it's delaying that 3rd base. Now, he needs to be very careful, because he cannot afford losing all of this. Robo-Bait, together with a 2nd robotics facility in the meantime on the other side of the map. +1 armor also being researched for Protoss, together with Blink. So he is progressing in this game. I'm just a little afraid he's going to lose all of these units as soon as I look away. 4th Nexus is done. Probes will begin for that expansion too. Scan is going to reveal the exact positioning here of the Protoss army. So Maru knows where he can expect the next fight to come from. He would really like to check this area of the map out a little bit more, I believe. But Widow mines are going to set up over here. Okay. Zealots going around the site. Yeah, what's really nice here for Lancer is that he's got so much economy. Maru is feeling under so much pressure right now that he can't really go across the map very easily. Because he knows that there's a chance as soon as he leaves that the Protoss is going to move into his 3rd base. Now, what do you do when your neighbor moves into your house? I don't know. I'm not sure what the correct procedure is. Lancer has already moved his army back home, however. He's got a lot of storms. There are quite a few ghosts out at this point in time, so that's... yeah, that's nice, but... it's difficult to really afford proper, as we do have a storm drop now attempted on the left or on the right side here. SCV is forced to run towards the left. Yeah, I don't know what an IRL base race would look like. Like if your opponent or your neighbor moves into your place? Should you move into your opponent's place? I don't know. I like my place. IRL base race, frowned upon, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, Lancer's got a phenomenal army at this point. He just really needs to get a little bit more stuff. Like, there's a lot of good tools here, right? Like, he's got all the fancy equipment, but not a lot of bulk. So, it's Colossi, it's Templar, and it's ranged up. Like, he's got all the things. Oh my god, those storms. Oh, another storm. Sure. In the meantime, Zealot run by on the other side of the map is killing a bunch of SCVs too. This is exactly what Lancer needs to be doing. Keep in mind that Maru is moving on over towards his opponent's 4th base. Whereas Lancer, I mean, he's already making a 5th. And he's going up against a Terran with only 3. Can we get a storm over here? No, we cannot. EMPs do shut it down. Those Colossi are really the main source of damage right now. Maru coming in clutch with that 1 EMP. Actually saving his butt there. I think 1 storm on that army and this could have been game over. Maru grabs the supply advantage. He hasn't really made a lot of SCVs in the last couple minutes. So he's got a huge army. There's another storm. Templar does die in the process. 3rd Colossus comes up. One of the Vikings gets targeted down. Only 1 Viking remains. Lancer can actually give up on this expansion just fine, but he feels like he can get more. I kind of wonder if he should just leave. Yeah, I agree. He's dealing damage on the other side of the map. There's still no mining over at the 3rd for Maru. So if that's the case, just move those probes on over towards that newly acquired mineral line, and you should be fine. Maru scans right now too, and he sees the direction that the probes are headed, so he knows that there's another base. He was assuming it was going to be the one over here with the rocks. That one would have been attackable from the back. Ooh, let's get a good shot over here though. Colossi do live. Yeah, Maru has got a massive army. Just no economy at all. Viking goes down. One of the Colossi is going to go down as well. Actually, I think so. He needs to target it down. 2 storms in the meantime load out of those prisms. I think there's just too much stuff right now for Protoss. Yeah, that economy has been building up for quite a long time. Obviously, mules are nice, but Maru just doesn't have enough income here to really sustain this battle any longer. And that means we're going to go to game number 3. And that means that our last game for today takes place on ley lines. Maru decided to start this game off by giving his opponent a little engineering bay present. Yeah. How nice is that? It did take 4 probes, however, to unwrap it. And it did slow down the Nexus on the low ground a little bit, but yeah, it's one of those moves that I really like for ladder heroes. I think overall at this level of play, it is just a bit suboptimal. Now, apparently this guy is now a renowned architect of Terran structures. He was responsible for building the NG Bay on the other side of the map, so he gets to go and build a command center right now too. Is Lancer going to be able to get away here with a Stargate opener again? Ley lines is a bit of a faster map. I would imagine, or I can imagine, that he's not going to do it, but maybe. I mean, he should be comfortable playing Twilight Council builds too. It's kind of funny how, after seeing, I've now seen 3 Stargate games in a row. Yeah. I'm wondering if maybe we should play Twilight instead. He could certainly do it, but I think it's going to be, yeah, it is going to be a Twilight Council. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. So, if you're in Maru's shoes now, in this particular series, you've seen a Stargate opener 2 out of 2 games. Do you assume that you can go and build a Widowmine drop again? Well, he's gone for a tech lab over here on the factory. So it looks like to me he wants to go into a cheeky little Cyclone build instead. I think. Maybe. Yep, Cyclone indeed does start up. Never mind. Okay. The Widowmine addiction, dude. This man's addicted to Widowmines. What do you do about that? Somebody take his Vespian gas away. He can't stop. Oh well. We're just gonna go for a single one. Yeah, double tech lab, and I guess we're gonna follow this up With, for example, Banshee could be fine. You can also go into a Raven at this, but there's a bunch of options here for Maru. Bit indecisive though. That does mean it's a bit of a suboptimal start. He's gonna try and do a single Widowmine drop. Now, Lancer has evidently been playing against Widowmine drops for the better part of his life, so he hasn't really taken any damage from it. At least not throughout this series. This is one of those. It's a funky one because it's only a single Widowmine, and it's one of those timings where you don't really necessarily expect it. Obviously, it doesn't have any Phoenixes available to easily clean this up, but I mean, it should still be a very straightforward push. Obviously, here for Lancer, though, he doesn't know how many Widowmines there are going to be inside of this plane. Maru literally boosts into this. Oh, bit clumsy. Good splitty there at the end. He really wants to get that that final shot off, and he's gonna get it. Yeah. In the meantime, that cheeky little Widowmine is running away. You can run, but you can't blink. He's hoping there's gonna be defenses. Oh, he decides to burrow, or at least hide in the tall grass for a moment. Not going to happen. It is, by the way, indeed cloaked Banshees on the back of this here for Maru. I don't really like this first bit of aggression. Yeah, he got one Stalker, but that's honestly more than he should have gotten. Third Nexus in the meantime is really nice and early. It is a triple gate start. Fourth gateway starts up right now. Fifth one on the back of it too. Sixth. That's good. We like odd numbers, but we like even numbers even better. And prime numbers. Prime numbers of gateways also allowed. Anyways. Plug Banshee shows up, but there's already an observer nearby, and obviously we have Blinky boys. Not ideal. Not ideal. Maru decides to go into a third Banshee. Already, though, there's aggression inside of the main base as the Stalkers just decided to blink by everything. It's a bit of a strange setup. This one does go down. Observer also gets sniped. Maru is not screaming for his opponent to get out of his lawn, but for him to get out of his kitchen. Turns out Lancer's a good guy. He decides to leave. Now we go for a Raven. Fair enough. Oh, misrelayed? Hello? Hello? That's a bit awkward. He doesn't have energy. No, he can cloak. Oh, that was really close. That was really close. Additional barracks over here at the front. No, you can't blink in there. Okay, we're just doing some individual blinkies back. Finally, 6.5 minutes in, we're gonna go into the Stimpack. Templar Archives here. Gonna go into the Psystorm research eventually, I'm sure. Charge once more. Yeah, about 2/3 of the way done. Yeah, I'm really liking this position here for Lancer. Yeah, there's a big timing attack on the horizon, but it still feels so late. Right? Like, we have Stimpack, we have Combat Shields, we have +1. It's the holy trinity of Terran upgrades. It will finish eventually, but it just takes 7.5 years at this point. In the meantime, Lancer is starting to outgrow his opponent. Not at a very rapid pace, but he's got that third base fully saturated. If he can finish up Psystorm by the time Terran goes across the map, the defense should be in the bag. Really no way that Maru is going to be able to afford any sort of ghost production off of 2 bases. He really needs a third for that. Now, what Maru does have, though, with this sort of attack, of course, is a lot of siege tanks. He's been pumping those out for a while. 5 of them in total. Raven also available as a detector. Super nice. Anti-armor missile, also really powerful. Storm's ticking. He has spotted the Templar at this point. Just a couple Templar hanging out with the boys. They're high, so they're a little slow. That's okay. That's okay. As long as they can cast magical spells, that's all Lancer really cares for at this point. In the meantime, we had a cheeky little Zealot warp in inside of the main base of Maru. Maru's imminent attack finally moved across, and then he had to pull all the way back. He actually all-army hotkeyed back, it looks like. Trying to see if he could defend against 4 Zealots. A little too much for my liking. And that now means that Lancer does have the upgrades done. A feedback on a Raven would also be really good. Now, this army, though, from Maru is massive. Yeah, look at the army size. Lancer may have the better quality units, but quantity is sometimes the only thing you truly need. Zealots going back into the main base. Maru not driving home this time around. I don't know if Lancer can really give up on his expansion. He's thinking about it. He's got a ton of money in the bank. Lancer, we gotta spend some resources, dude. Lancer, we've got 2,000 resources. Don't tell me you're gonna lose this game because you forget the macro. He starts up a couple of desperation pylons right now. Now, lucky for him, he did lose some troops as well in the meantime. So he can actually warp in things again. Siege tanks slow pushing forward. Nexus does fall. More zealots have been warped in. They're just gonna run across the map instead. Looks like the zealots in the main base have been cleaned up by the Terran reinforcements, and these zealots are gonna get intercepted as well relatively easily. Maru is still, though, without another base. So, yeah, he can go home if he wants to, but what is he going to go home to? He's been losing a lot of stuff. More zealots just eating away at whatever Terran has. None of those fights have been absolutely game-ending, but it's starting to really hurt. And now these zealots can actually kill everything. In the meantime, we have some storms going down on the other side of the map. This is forcing Maru into a very uncomfortable all-in position. 18 SCVs remain? I almost wonder if you should bring these zealots back home, man. Because I think at this point, Lancer just needs to clean this up. He's gotten around to spending his money eventually, too. Maru has now found that newly acquired Nexus. This is not going to supply block Lancer this time around, but Lancer is actually just going to blink on top of any siege tanks. We got a couple of storms. Some of them are overlapping. It certainly does not stack, but Maru no longer has the numbers advantage. He is forced to tap out. And therefore, he did not just lose 2-0 against Hero, but he also lost 2-1 against Lancer. And that means that Maru actually gets eliminated out of the Masters Coliseum 8 in the group stage. GG.